The Second World War. A global conflict that consumed nations, reshaped borders, and redefined modern warfare. From the frozen Eastern Front to the scorching sands of North Africa, millions clashed in a brutal struggle for dominance. In this series, we delve into 10 battles that stand out for their audacity, strategic brilliance, or profound impact on the war's outcome. These weren't just clashes of armies, but clashes of ideologies, of national wills, of the very human spirit pushed to its breaking point. Prepare to journey back to a time when the fate of the world hung in the balance, and ordinary men and women found themselves thrust into extraordinary circumstances. Stalingrad. The very name evokes images of urban warfare at its most brutal, a struggle for every street, every building, every inch of blood-soaked rubble. For over 6 months, from August 1942 to February 1943, the German and Soviet armies locked horns in a deadly embrace that would forever alter the course of the war. Imagine a city transformed into a labyrinthine battleground, where buildings became fortresses, sewers became pathways for flanking maneuvers, and the air crackled with the constant din of gunfire, explosions, and the cries of the wounded. Within this urban hellscape, hundreds of thousands of soldiers fought with a ferocity rarely seen in the annals of warfare. For the Germans, Stalingrad represented a prize of immense strategic and ideological importance, a city that bore the name of their nemesis, Stalin himself. But the Soviets were determined to hold the city at any cost, their resistance fueled by patriotism, desperation, and a burning desire for revenge. The fighting raged through the bitter Russian winter, the cold as much a foe as the enemy. And as weeks turned into months, the tide of battle slowly began to turn. June 6, 1944, D-Day. A date forever seared into the collective memory of the free world. The largest amphibious invasion in history, Operation Overlord, saw Allied forces storm the beaches of Normandy, France, in a daring gamble to liberate Western Europe from Nazi tyranny. Picture this, a vast armada of ships stretching as far as the eye can see, cutting through the choppy waters of the English Channel. On board, thousands of Allied soldiers, their faces etched with a mixture of apprehension and grim determination, prepare to face the unknown. As dawn breaks, the thunderous roar of naval bombardment signals the start of the assault. Landing craft, braving heavy enemy fire, disgorge wave after wave of troops onto the heavily fortified beaches, each man knowing that he might not live to see the day's end. The Germans, entrenched in their bunkers and pillboxes, put up fierce resistance. Casualties mount quickly, the sand stained crimson with the blood of the fallen. Yet, despite heavy losses, the Allies gain a foothold, their courage and sacrifice paving the way for the liberation of France and the eventual defeat of Nazi Germany. D-Day was more than just a military victory. It was a testament to the indomitable spirit of those who fought for freedom, a symbol of hope in the darkest hours of the Second World War. In the vast expanse of the Pacific, where the blue waters stretched endlessly towards the horizon, a different kind of battle raged, a battle for naval supremacy, a battle that would decide the fate of the Pacific War. This was the Battle of Midway. June 4th, 1942. 4 Japanese aircraft carriers, veterans of the devastating attack on Pearl Harbor, steamed towards the strategically vital Midway atoll, seeking to crush the remnants of the American Pacific Fleet and solidify their hold on the region. But the Americans, thanks to a stroke of intelligence luck, knew the Japanese were coming. Lying in wait, a smaller but determined US Navy task force prepared to spring a trap, hoping to turn the tide of the war in the Pacific. What followed was a clash of titans, a swirling aerial melee where dive bombers and torpedo planes dueled for supremacy amidst a chaotic symphony of anti-aircraft fire, explosions, and the roar of aircraft engines. In a matter of hours, the course of the Pacific War shifted dramatically. 4 Japanese carriers, the pride of their fleet, lay burning hulks, victims of American air power. The Battle of Midway, a decisive American victory, dealt a crippling blow to Japanese ambitions and marked a turning point in the Pacific theatre. December 1944. The war in Europe seemed to be nearing its end, but in the Ardennes, Hitler unleashed a desperate gamble, the Battle of the Bulge. American troops were shocked by the surprise attack. German tanks surged forward, creating a dangerous bulge. Snow hampered Allied movements, aiding the Germans. American units fought tenaciously in brutal conditions. Reinforcements helped the Allies hold their ground. The German offensive ultimately failed. The bulge was pushed back, marking the last major German offensive. The scorching sands of North Africa, often overshadowed by the titanic clashes on the Eastern Front and Western Europe. Yet in the Egyptian desert, the Second Battle of El Alamein unfolded, October 1942. German and Italian forces, led by Erwin Rommel, had pushed deep into Allied territory, but the British Eighth Army under General Bernard Montgomery prepared to make a stand. What followed was a grueling battle of attrition, forcing Rommel's forces to retreat. El Alamein marked a turning point, setting the stage for Allied victory in North Africa. The Eastern Front, a theatre of unimaginable scale and brutality. The Battle of Kursk, July 1943, the largest tank battle in history. Following Stalingrad, the Germans aimed to regain the initiative. Their target, the Soviet salient near Kursk. Operation Citadel aimed to trap and destroy Soviet forces. The Soviets were well aware and prepared. Kursk was transformed into a fortress. The clash was apocalyptic. Thousands of tanks and aircraft engaged in titanic struggle. The German offensive faltered, blunted by Soviet defense. Kursk marked a decisive turning point, leading to the Soviet drive towards Berlin. The Battle of Britain. A nation's courage takes flight. The summer of 1940. Western Europe lay under the heel of Nazi Germany. Only Great Britain stood between Hitler and his ambition. The Battle of Britain would determine the fate of a nation. Imagine the skies above the southern England, transformed into a battlefield. Day after day, German bombers targeted British airfields and cities. Facing them were the pilots of the Royal Air Force. Many were young men, barely out of their teens. The Battle of Britain was a clash of technologies and a testament to the human spirit. British pilots faced overwhelming odds. On the ground, the British people endured the Blitz, but the British spirit held firm. The RAF inflicted heavy losses on the Luftwaffe. The Battle of Britain became a symbol of British resilience. October 1941. The seemingly unstoppable German war machine, having swept across Poland and France, now turned its sights on Moscow, the heart of the Soviet Union. Operation Typhoon, as the German offensive was codenamed, aimed to capture the Soviet capital and bring a swift end to the war in the east. Imagine the vastness of the Russian landscape, a seemingly endless expanse of forests, rivers and plains, now transformed into a frozen battleground. German troops, ill-prepared for the brutal Russian winter, advanced towards Moscow, their initial progress swift and seemingly unstoppable. But as the temperatures plummeted, the German advance began to falter. Soviet resistance, fueled by a fierce determination to defend their homeland, stiffened. The very elements themselves, the bitter cold, the deep snow, the icy winds, became weapons in the hands of the defenders. The Battle of Moscow was a brutal test of human endurance, a clash of ideologies as much as armies. German soldiers, freezing in their summer uniforms, their equipment failing in the sub-zero temperatures, began to question the invincibility of their Wehrmacht. The Soviets, accustomed to the harsh conditions, fought with a ferocity born of desperation and patriotism. In December 1941, the German offensive ground to a halt, their dreams of a swift victory shattered on the outskirts of Moscow. The Battle of Moscow marked the first major defeat for the seemingly invincible German army and dispelled the myth of their invincibility. In the vast expanse of the Pacific lay Guadalcanal. Here, a battle of attrition raged for 6 long months. August 1942, US Marines faced fierce resistance from Japanese defenders. The battle devolved into a brutal struggle amidst dense jungle and on warships. Imagine the suffocating heat, the constant humidity, the ever-present threat of disease. The jungle itself seemed to conspire against the soldiers. Snipers lurked in the trees, machine guns rattled from hidden bunkers. The Battle of Guadalcanal was a test of human endurance. Both sides fought with incredible ferocity. The seas around Guadalcanal became a battleground. The Battle of Guadalcanal marked a turning point in the Pacific War. April 1945. The war in Europe was in its death throes. The once mighty German Wehrmacht reduced to a shadow of its former self. Amidst the ruins, the German people fought on. In Berlin, the final act of the war was about to unfold. The proud capital, now a desolate wasteland. Soviet troops closed in on the city centre. The Battle of Berlin was a brutal, chaotic affair. Soviet artillery pounded German positions, tanks clashed in the streets. Ordinary Berliners were caught in the crossfire. On April 30th, 1945, Hitler committed suicide in his bunker. On May 2nd, Berlin surrendered, marking the end of the war in Europe. From the frozen steppes of Russia to the sweltering jungles of the Pacific, these 10 battles represent just a fraction of the conflict that was World War II. Millions fought, bled and died in a struggle that reshaped the geopolitical landscape and left an indelible mark on human history. These battles were more than just strategic maneuvers on a map. They were arenas of unimaginable human drama, where ordinary individuals confronted extraordinary circumstances with courage, resilience and sacrifice. We owe it to them, to the memory of those who fought and fell, to remember their sacrifices and to learn from the mistakes that led to such a devastating conflict. Seek out the stories of those who were there, delve into the history of this pivotal period, and never forget the lessons learned from the ashes of World War II. Thank you for watching, and please consider subscribing for more explorations into the defining moments of our past.